guess, well, the big question then is, how can companies save money on cloud computing? If we could just limit this for a moment to public cloud, what are a couple ideas or an idea you might share with people? This is at least one thing you can do to save money on your cloud deployment. James, is there a magic bullet out there somewhere to save money on cloud?
So, I mean, kind of easy first steps are to try and work out whether you're using the right instance sizes. Buying a massive machine when you're not using it, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So first and foremost, make sure that you're using the right instance sizes. It's the instance costs which tend to dominate the economics. Once you've got that, the default will be you'll be using, say, on-demand instances where you're on basically an hour-by-hour contract. So you're paying for a lot of flexibility. You're paying for the ability to turn it on and to turn it off, and you're paying a very high price. So what you're then looking for is instance types and particular locations where you can make a commitment, and you're looking for a discount for that commitment. Basically in order to hedge or fix your future prices for those resources where you don't need that flexibility.
Ronnie, a tip on saving money, whether it's choosing a vendor or how do companies save money on cloud computing?
Hopefully well. In my experience personally in here at RedScale, it's all about forecasting your costs and doing your best to model what your usage is going to be, and then building out different scenarios and attempting as best as possible to actually predict what your costs are going to be so that you're not really surprised by those costs. The real challenge is creating a link between forecasting what your costs are going to be, and there are a number of different ways you could do that, and actually making that data actionable. So as you're trying different instances, as you're trying different regions and so on, how do you monitor your costs and then take action on it rapidly so that you're not incurring costs that are unnecessary, and then eventually making the correct infrastructure decisions at that time for whatever is being developed?
Well, what is the answer to that, or can you answer it here? How do you monitor those costs most carefully?
Without sort of without shamelessly plugging what we do, one of the areas that RightScale has launched into recently is particularly in cloud analytics. So it's a new product that we launched recently that allows customers to take their actuals, so their infrastructure actuals, build out various price models to forecast or predict what their costs are going to be, and then wrap that back into the actual cloud management platform. It's been a very compelling new product launch that has resonated quite well with users because you can tie that data back into operational actions, and that is the big challenge: is what do you do with that cost data and then make it actionable? There are a number of other tools on the market as well that
besides RightScale, you mean? Okay. You might not mention them, but that's okay. Owen, tips on saving money. How can a company save money on cloud computing?
So I think Ronnie and James have kind of got the right idea. I would suggest combining both approaches. So make a forecast of what you expect your consumption to be over the next few years. Do a best case and worst case analysis, and then use this information to determine what commitment you are willing to make based on the risk. Obviously, you don't want to make too much of a commitment, because if the worst case happens, then you've made a commitment for which you won't be able to get a return. But the bigger commitment you can get, obviously, the bigger discount you can get. So I think it's important to make a fairly accurate forecast, but realize that no forecast is perfect, and to assess the worst and best case scenarios.
I mean, I think in order to kind of quantify some of those savings, if you look at, take Amazon Web Services as an example. If you're prepared to make a 1-year commitment for some of the most common instance types, there's a saving of 45% available to you, but you have to pay most of that cost up front. If you're working through, shameless plug, our cloud options service, then you can commit for 3, 6, 9, or up to 12 months directly with us, not to pay anything up front, and get, I mean, it depends upon the instance type, but anything from 15 through to 30% saving. And then we provide some cost analytic reports that go to the CFO or whoever's overseeing the budget, so that they can see what they've hedged and if they basically bought more commitment that they want to, or they want to change availability zones, then at the end of the day, we're trading a commodity in our mind, and we'll offer them a price to buy back from them.
Max, tips on saving money in cloud computing? How can companies do that?
Yeah, I think most of it has been said. Understanding the price models is important. Many people, what James said, the price models are different, and understanding the workloads and then comparing it with the price models is important. I think even the first step, understanding your workloads before you make a decision where to put them, is important. I mean, some are very hard to make profitable, let's say, in the cloud. Some are more easy in that area. That's an important aspect as well. And finally, I think what the providers, many of the people just don't make the use out of the price models. And one example is the spot pricing of Amazon. It is way cheaper, and there are ways to make it also, by just putting up a higher bid, you can still get the benefit of the price, but you don't have the unreliability of the spot pricing. So many people, I think, run with a standard pricing model, although the others are much more interesting. And as James said, even beyond the Amazon example, there are more ways to save. So I think that's all. All these things put together, it's hard to make it more expensive in the cloud than anywhere else.